Hello and welcome everyone to the third session of the second day of the Learning Technologies Autumn Forum. And in today's session, we'll be navigating the world of AI and its impact on coaching. It is pretty safe to say that this is a very important time for AI in this world. And it's also important, therefore, that we share this space with numerous thought leaders. So I'm very, very happy to announce that Molly and Noorie from Saffron Interactive will be joining us today to talk about their work in AI and coaching.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here on this
slightly
dreary Thursday.
Unless you're Noorie.
Unless you're Noorie, who's always in the sunshine.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I look angelic because of that sun. But yeah, having trouble actually looking at the screens at the moment. But anyway.
Fantastic. Well, we're looking forward to hearing all about Saffron Interactive and, of course, your work in skills development and performance with AI coaching. Over to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So, good afternoon, everyone. I guess, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you're all well and have had a fantastic day so far. So we're going to kick things off with our session, Accelerating Skills Development and Performance with AI Coaching. Now, it's been nearly 2 years since November 2022 when OpenAI's ChatGPT 3.5 was launched into public consciousness. And by December, the large language model was already widely used. And by January, it had reached 100 million monthly users, which is a faster adoption rate than Instagram or TikTok. And we are now here in middle of October 2024. And as Hannah just alluded to, you absolutely still can't open your inbox or scroll through the news without seeing the two-letter acronym AI. And it still is sort of one of the biggest challenges and most exciting prospects that the world faces, not least learning and development. So we're thrilled that you have joined us here today to look at how we can use the technology and accelerations to deliver tangible business improvement. So to give you a brief introduction, my name is Molly and I'm a performance consultant at Saffron Interactive. And during my time in the industry, I've thrown myself into working with clients of all shapes and sizes, including large global mining organisations, councils, not-for-profits, and lots of different businesses over that time, and developed a real passion for helping organisations change their people's behaviour to boost performance. And I'm joined by my colleague Noorie.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for being here with us. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a director at Saffron. Prior to joining Saffron, I was in consulting. So I was a partner at KPMG, leading their people services business in London and Eastern counties. But I've also held in-house roles, a global role at BP and a regional role at Lendlease. And that combined experience is hopefully what I bring to my clients and the learning community in general.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you, Noorie. So before we really get going, let's give you a little bit of a reminder about what we're going to get into during this session. So firstly, we're going to be getting to grips with a broad idea of some of the uses of AI in workforce development. And I'm sure some of you are really, really familiar with that, and give you a little bit of a gauge as to where you match up with your colleagues. And then we're going to be taking a closer look at the impact that we can achieve through an AI-enabled approach. And if you want to achieve that impact, how can you develop an optimal strategy that's going to enable you to do so? And after that, we'll need to explore a bit of the practicalities of that. So giving you a bit of a peek into the art of the possible, whilst ensuring that we put a lens on combining safety, reliability, and effectiveness in that strategy as well. And then we'll touch on some of the data and how we can bring that into learning, to enable continuous performance improvement. So I'm going to hand over to Noorie now, and let's get started.
Thanks, Molly. So I think you've probably heard quite a lot about the current use of AI in L&D in particular. Don's report for one thing at the start of the week. And this particular graphic is also from Fosway, and it largely shows the same things, but it goes into a little bit of detail that we want to focus on today. So have a look at the left-hand side. I know it's a little bit busy, but have a look at the left-hand side, and you can see all the activities there that are being used. And what it really shows is that the first four activities, which are in that 20% range of use, they really show that AI is being used by L&D, but it's all in the area of content generation, or it's related to content delivery. And then the next two are quite sort of substantially lower in use. So we're looking at generative AI learning, authoring, AI search and chat, etc. But again, it's for content purposes. So that's sort of the green line there. But if you can look at the yellow colouring, that also relates to what's being piloted at the moment. And the orange is really about what's being implemented. And the story is really the same. But we all know that L&D's real value to the business is about transformation. It's about really improving that workplace performance, enabling skills development, and creating that value for the business. And we also know that the currency of the future is really around skills, and adopting that, therefore, in those areas seems to be quite low. So if I can draw your attention again to that left-hand side, you can see that those areas, as you can see, is sort of in very much single digits, and the idea of implementation is also seemingly a much longer time away, and it's something that's being set aside more and more for the future. So obviously we don't know what the time frame for that future is, but let's look instead at what the business is doing and what the value creation for the business is. So another busy slide coming up next. And sorry about, again, the sort of small words on that, but really, as a general idea, what the business is ploughing ahead with, and it's across all of the major industries, and this is just a snapshot, by the way, well, the actual business is really putting in AI-enabled things like end-to-end business functions, logistics, research, production, operations. Finance is becoming more AI enabled with robotic process automation as well. IT security threat systems are being put in all over the place. So all of these elements are being taken up wholesale across the businesses, and the value that's been predicted by McKinsey to be built across all those sectors is, as you can see, in the absolute trillions. But what's really noticeable is that a massive 60 to 90 billion of tangible value is in talent and organization. So there's tremendous value to the business in workforce development. And so then it's a natural question to ask, well, what is getting in the way of the focus on the value-added activities that L&D and HR can contribute? We all want to be valuable to the business, but something must be getting in the way of your normal day-to-day roles. So I'm going to ask that question of you. So if we move on, we're going to try and get a poll to understand what that differential is really caused by. So what are your challenges to adopting that value creation activity, such as coaching, skills, and focusing on adaptive learning, for example, or the like, but especially coaching and skills? what are the things that are getting in the way? So I think, Hannah, I think you might have a poll that you're going to launch.
Yes, the poll is live, and what we're finding out is so far 28% don't know where to start. So this is a great place for them to start, which is absolutely fantastic. 17% are struggling, oh, it's moving every single second, to get the business to listen, and that they also have a similar percentage for they don't actually have the budget to allocate this. And on the same percentage, we have people worried about security or ethical use. So these are really big strategic challenges inside the organizations.
Yeah, okay. Well, if everyone's had a chance to vote, then we can move on.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see and sort of explore those challenges that people are facing. And I think that's probably one of the biggest one. And it's clear to see in the results that we've got from this poll, that not knowing where to start. What's that step that you take in terms of making the move beyond using it for content generation to being able to actually deliver that tangible value?
Yeah, absolutely. We hope that by the rest of the conversation today, you might know where to start. Budget is obviously, another issue. Everyone is, everyone's budgets are being cut. But I suppose that's where value can actually overcome and focus maybe on the right things may actually help in terms of putting that business case together. Hannah, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the key part really is actually finding out how AI would actually impact that organization. We do a lot of this over at QS. We are, after all, a data company, though. And we looked at how AI would impact our organization, our clients, their clients, and that helped guide us in our use of AI and the way that we looked at it. And we spent a lot of time looking at different policies, procedures around the world, different laws to see what happens where. So it was our kind of starter for 10, looking inside. But places like this, I think, with thought leaders like yourself, is really important to get those pieces of information, but also importantly, ideas as to how to tackle it with the business if they won't listen. Because as we can see, AI isn't going anywhere. It's only ever getting bigger. So we really do need to consider to stay one step ahead. We can't bury ourselves in the sand on this one. We have to keep pushing forward. So I think persistence is key for everyone who's listening to today's webinar.
Absolutely. And hopefully using this webinar today, we can give people some tips and tricks and things to take forward with them in order to build that business case and start moving things forward.
Absolutely, because it's now risen to 26% don't know where to start. So that is a significant proportion of people sitting here going, I have no idea where to begin. So I think this is their fantastic starting point.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So I think I'll probably carry on then. So we can see there's some challenges that we need to overcome. Knowing where to start is absolutely one of them. And as we said, I'm hoping that we can alleviate some of those today. But I think it's important to highlight that AI really does have the power to be used to deliver that measurable impact on productivity and performance. But it's key for us as learning and development and as people professionals that we are able to tap directly into the business goals and leverage the value that we have within the talent and skills space. Noorie mentioned it earlier. There's a huge statement, and lots of people have always said skills are the currency of the future. But I actually disagree. I think skills are the currency of the present, and we need to use them alongside the technology in order to deliver that peak value creation across the entire business. Because by investing in skills in order to meet the critical workplace challenges that almost every industry is facing right now, we can use our people and our talent to do that. And you can see it here in a quote that's from an Accenture report actually earlier this year, that states technology like Gen AI is recognized by executives not just as a revenue driver, but also as a force for disruptive change. And importantly, so is talent. Research has shown that technology alone will not drive Gen AI enabled growth. Instead, by prioritizing people alongside data and tech, can lead to productivity gains of up to 11%, while sidelining that human factor slashes those gains to just 4%. So what that research clearly showcases is the direct value boost that by prioritizing people and their skills alongside technology and Gen AI can deliver. It's a significant 7% increase in productivity gains. And that is why it's critical that L&D are able to support that goal, because we are the area of the business that has got that direct line and direct access to our people, their skills and talent. But beyond just productivity, a people-forward approach can deliver a huge realm of other impacts and positive measures. Because this was some data that was highlighted in another report from McKinsey, actually, that went into performance through people and showed organizations who are able to prioritize their people alongside skills development, as well as a focus on pure performance, can create opportunities for their employees to build their skills whilst also consistently clearing a high bar for financial performance. So the companies who you can see represented on screen here by this data were those who delivered an average of 74 hours of training per employee per year. And as a result of doing that, they were able to deliver 4.3 times more likelihood to maintain top tier financial performance. And they were able to grow revenue 2 times faster than their peers, even whilst navigating the turbulent pandemic landscape, which was when this data was taken. So this showcases it's not a question. Capitalizing on skills means maintaining that cutting edge expertise. It means being able to attract the best talent to your organization. And it means being able to respond to increasingly sophisticated market demands. But it's this combination of maintaining those skills and those people alongside the use of AI tools that's going to deliver that competitive advantage long term and that value creation that Noorie was talking about earlier. But is there a magic formula or a strategy that we can use in order to get one step closer? Potentially. I think I'm going to throw back over to Noorie now, and she's going to explore that a little bit further.
Yeah, exactly. So everything that we've talked about just now and what the evidence actually shows is that people first strategy that Molly was just referring to. So if we look at things really quite simply, especially for, really honing in on what that strategy should be and where you should potentially start, then people is the place to go to. So on the next element, you'll see that, and the next, you'll see that if we can actually get the best out of our people, then obviously that's going to lead to the maximum value creation. So they're still the engine, and we've got to really think about them first. And how do we do that? Well, the first thing is really solving this cognitive overload that everyone is experiencing. I mean, we've all heard about the mental health issues in workforces at the moment. But what we can do is really make things easy for individuals and really cut down on that friction. So make learning enjoyable again and take out the frustrations with trying to find the right learning, with trying to, choose what's the right pathways, etc. And also, more and more, as you know, coaching is something that really accelerates workplace performance and improves it as well. So you get 2 things for every pound that you spend. But obviously, building a coaching culture takes an enormous amount of time within an organization, which at the moment, with the technology and revenues moving in the way that they are, time isn't a commodity that most of us have. And coaching has also been traditionally way too expensive for the entire workforce. Well, the good news is that AI has the power to level that playing field and find your actual true performers in the workplace, not just those ones maybe at the higher echelons of the organization. And ultimately, you don't really want to streamline so much so that you are spoon feeding your workforce. You want them to be able to become self-determined learners. So you want them to not just know about a particular area or have the skill, but you want them to be able to synthesize information and build new behaviors and incorporate that curiosity and learning into essentially their DNA. And AI can really help with that. So, in terms of that tech, what we have are those the ability to have really personalized skills development pathways, really personalized feedback in terms of any assessments that you're doing. And obviously, that scalability that we talked about is now really easy for the entire workforce and really levels that playing field. And the best thing is that your strategy doesn't have to be static, because you're able, through that use of technology, to measure the impact and return on investment that you're getting in real time. Then it's able to be moving with what's needed and not be, if you like, behind the times. And that in itself then helps to drive that continuous improvement within the organization, within L&D, and again within the strategy. And it also helps create that value by aligning it with the business goals. And it's helps because if everyone in the workforce is pulling the same way, using the same elements, then there's a company-wide commitment to change. It really does bind and become the impetus for real transformation. And obviously, that requires a clear and communicated strategy from the top, from the business, which I think is clearly very important, and you need to get that buy-in in any case. So it sounds like a really simple way of looking at things. And what might that actually look like in terms of all of these things, or at least 85 to 90% of these elements? Well, I want to really look at ADA in terms of the updated ADA. And I'm just going to play a show reel, which is going to take you through a very quick tour of its abilities. Go ahead, Molly. So as you can see here, ADA takes users on a journey, their own journey, and it's powered by voice and text to have those natural, reflective conversations. And you can see that journey on the menu there. So it starts with understanding the user's own attitude to skills development, their motivations, their challenges, and also their commitment to it. Then helps them to evaluate their skills and matches that to the learning already available in not just the platform, but your organization's LMS. So all of the content that you have currently already. And then that in turn is used to help them to create an action plan with SMART goals to achieve that desired end goal. So if we move on.
Hello, I'm Ada, your career coach. We'll explore your skills, set goals, and create a plan just for you. Follow my prompts, and we'll progress together. You can call me anytime you see my picture. Let's get started on your profile. Is developing your skills important to you? Now that we've established that, do you make time for learning or honing your skills?
I know it's important to do so, but I'm not that good at carving out the time.
What kinds of things get in the way of making time for learning?
I'm really busy at work and home and just have lots of different commitments.
Let's explore your self-awareness. Do you feel you know your skills, strengths, and growth areas?
I'm aware of my strengths and weaknesses, but one specific area that I need to improve on is my approach to design research.
Thanks for sharing that. I've got all the information I need.
So you can see there that that WhatsApp type recording functionality really picks up what's being said, and it plays it back to the individual as well. And then the powerful way of recognizing what's being said in terms of the actual sentiment, in terms of the actual content, and responding in a really effective way is really valuable to the individual, but it's also valuable data points in the back end and helps you get a really full picture of your workforce's feelings and attitudes to learning and skills development. So that sentiment analysis is already built into the platform. Moving on.
Thanks for allowing me to get to know you. Move on to the skills assessment so that you can discover where your strengths lie and what skills you need to develop.
So here we've built in an integrated skills assessment to help users really evaluate themselves, but there are also some prompts in there if we detect a pattern or whatever. And we've put in a generic soft skills assessment across a number of different soft skills and also digital, and you'll see which ones those are a little bit later. But if you have your own skills competency framework that you want to use, then that can be swapped out instead. So, moving on. So if you can see here, the output here, or the summary and feedback, is also AI generated. So it depends very much on, how the individual is responding to those questions, that the feedback in itself is really valuable. And I don't know if you can hone in, but you can see that it very specifically highlights exactly what the user's strengths are, and then not only highlights the improvements or development areas, but it also lets them know that outcome of doing that bit of training or that extra work, what that will enable them to be able to become, and what how they will be able to use that in their roles. So there's a sort of an element of reward there. Moving on. So here you can see just those nicely coloured tiles, all of the skills assessment that's already built into the platform. And as you can see, they're all the sort of soft skills, essential skills that most people would at least want to start with as well. But the real power here is seeing the recommended training And it's really quite specific. So to that reward, essentially. So it's very built to the level of the skill in that particular skill, and the recommendations are for, if you like, the next level up. So it's a really proper development pathway that's actually given, and that gives that clear line of sight in terms of that reward that we just talked about. Moving on. And then this is really about turning all of that thought and all of that reward into some action and commitment. And something that people find really hard is really about creating those SMART goals. And here, instead of just sort of having a formula, you can be guided through that so that you can actually make a proper SMART goal and understand the reasons why. So it's not only just making a goal, but it's also then allowing you to build up on the little actions that together will get you to that goal. And because it's in this digital platform, Ada will then remind you about the actions that are actually coming up. You have your own dashboard in terms of being able to keep track of those. And the good thing about it is that your manager can essentially know where you are and step in if you haven't met your goals or you haven't been in the platform for a bit of time. So if there's any reason that your learning journey has suddenly stopped, they can actually come in and help motivate you. So they are not absent from this journey. They're integrated and enabled by being able to see, if you like, the general output of how you're getting on. Thanks, Molly, if you can move on. So that really begs the question then, well, is all of those conversations, are they reliable and are they safe? And one of the things that, our clients are concerned about is really those, if you like, AI going rogue. And what you can see from here, this is a sort of independent table, if you like, of hallucinations, or if you like, that fake information coming together. And as you can see, the accuracy rate is incredibly high, and it's getting better in a very short space of time. So this is just a 6-month comparison. And what's interesting here is that you can also see that the players are changing. So how safe and reliable a solution is potentially depends on the AI that you're using, and the effectiveness of it is really determined by the quality of that AI. But you can see that really those accuracy rates are really quite high. In terms of safety, I think, like all tech, it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. If you have the same parameters and risk management around any other tech, it's that kind of thinking that really should govern any tech, whether that's AI or not. And those same principles and ethics and values can be used to evaluate, if you like, the AI that's actually being powering these types of simulations or experiences. So the next question then, if we can be happy with the reliability and the safety, is, well, is it actually effective? And this is really interesting because this was a couple of years ago now. Nikita Blanche did some really simple analysis. He took a control group, as you can see in green, and there's an experimental group in purple. And this was a real simple chatbot type intervention, not anything as as complex as what you've just seen, but a really simple chatbot type intervention for the experimental group. And you can see that adoption at the beginning is really quite short in terms of the actual performance of individuals, and it takes just a little while to get used to it. But then at the sort of 13-week element, it starts actually taking over, or 14-week element, and actually starts increasing. And the important thing to note here is that the control group had one-to-one human coaching, and the experimental group only had that simple chatbot type experience. And what's really interesting here is that whilst you can see the green line, it peaks and then it actually starts going down. Right towards the end at T7 and T8, the performance of individuals actually starts going down. And so that means that essentially either the coach themselves is actually tired of their coachee, or that relationship somehow isn't as effective anymore. Whereas with the AI coach or the chatbot, that actually continues to go up. And what this graph doesn't show is that it actually continues to go up even 3 months after any of those interventions are actually stopped. So it is actually effective. And to give you further evidence of that, I'm going to pass over to Molly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Noorie. So as Noorie just said, they can be effective, but as effective as they can be, does that matter if employees aren't going to embrace the technology? So will employees embrace AI coaches, mentors, and learning assistants at work? And what are the potential current perceptions of that technology? Now, I'm going to first and foremost share a piece of data that's from 2019, actually. So before the full advent of ChatGPT 2 years ago. So it's potentially likely that things have changed and perceptions have developed in the workplace since this survey was taken. But I'm just going to show you a piece of data from just over 1,000 managers in the US, aged 25 to 55. So this was a cohort who were quizzed on their perceptions of using an AI coach before. And before they used it, 47% of people said that they wanted to work with an AI coach, so they were open to it, while 53% were hesitant. And now that stat on its own isn't going to help make our case for whether AI should be used and whether workforces will embrace it, because even with nearly 50% of people having a positive standpoint, that's still the majority that were hesitant about it. But what will help prove our case is what came afterwards. So after using this AI coach, and it was a very simple AI coach, 83% of the cohort not only said that they liked using their AI coach after interacting with it, but 83% wanted to actively continue using the system after the trial had completed, which means that there might be a little bit of work to be done in terms of communication and some of the strategy that goes around it, which I think Noorie alluded to earlier. But it is possible to create an enjoyable, effective, and long-term coaching experience using AI. And this was also reflected in some of our own research as well. So these are statistics using Ada's inbuilt data-driven technology that allow us to ascertain some real-time insights into user behavior, confidence, and that non-intrusive measurement of organizational skills level and capability that help to showcase some of those benefits that we can achieve to both users themselves and the wider business as a whole. And this data was from our pilot rollout, which incorporated approximately 500 users and measured their results across a 4-month period, so an extended period of time. And it's also worth noting that our cohort was from a little bit of a wider demographic than the data that I just showed you, and was actually reaching people aged 18 to 65 and they were a little bit further removed from that corporate managerial space as well. And this data shows some serious commitment, with over 50,000 minutes spent in the platform, 628 individual actions completed, and 79% of the user cohort completing their entire action plan within the time frame. And alongside that hard data, we've also got some of the more qualitative insights from those question points and the self-reflection moments that are incorporated into the journey that Noorie showed you using the video earlier, showing that confidence increased from 36 to 92% within just half an hour of starting their journey. People felt more in control over their future prospects, with feelings of control increasing from 50 to 65%. People felt a lot less worried, with feelings of concern over their future development reducing from 37 to 10%. And that also meant that people were an awful lot more curious too, and wanted to explore new learning opportunities, with 90% expressing that skill to training matching functionality compelled them to think about different development opportunities that they'd never previously thought about. So this shows that by using AI in a different way and using it to help people develop or understand their own skills, AI can become that strategic partner and help them develop an action plan that helps them move forward and compel themselves to drive their own development. And this style of holistic support is what can empower learners to take action towards more focused upskilling and reskilling, and help drive individual, manager, and team accountability. And even more so, when we're creating that learning experience or bringing in that new technology, it's important to recognize and understand and respond to what your users want, because if they don't like using something, people aren't going to use it. You can't make them. So by making significant efforts to address and remove some of the frustration that can often be perceived when we think about chatbots or AI interfaces, we were able to maintain that effectiveness and produce some really fantastic qualitative feedback here, which you can see across the board. So 80% felt the coach was engaging and supportive, 100% felt it was a positive experience, and we also got 80 to 100% ratings across the design and functionality of the system as well. And 80% also stated that they would be highly likely to recommend the platform to a friend. All of which helps contribute to that long-term use and the value creation that a platform like Ada can actually deliver. And I'm just going to give you a little sneak into some of the quotes and the actual user feedback that we received, with lots of people thinking it was a positive experience and comments being centered around how easy to use, navigate, clear and understandable the journey was. And a lot of these quotes also show that the fantastic level of engagement was due to some of that important science and behavioural elements that we used behind the goal setting and behind the journey that we crafted, and showcase that clear attitudinal and behavioural shift that's going to help deliver those critical talent and skills outcomes for the business. So rounding us off then, we've showcased various different elements in today's session, but I think it was clear to see at the start that there's still that significant gap between the potential and the actual value creation from the use of AI within workforce development. But there is such an opportunity there if we take that leap and we know how to take that first step, which we know is worrying a quarter of the people who were on this session at least today. So that data is pointing us towards the optimal strategy being people-focused and directly aligning our AI efforts with the business goals. And Noorie took us through what we believe to be this optimal formula for achieving it, and some practical technology that can provide that vehicle for scale, data, and value creation and measurement. But before we finish up, I'm just going to quickly throw it back to you with our final poll. Is almost the question of, are you ready? Do you feel like we might have armed you with some tips and tricks and things to take forward? So are you ready to use this strategy to focus on value creation within your business? You can let us know by using the poll. You've got a couple of options. You've got, yes, you're ready. Maybe you'd like to give it a go. Maybe you need more help with proving that business case. You yourself could use some more convincing, or anything else. Feel free to sort of share your thoughts in the poll and also in the chat as well. It'd be great to hear. So Hannah, I don't know if you've got people answering the poll ready.
Poll is loading even as we speak, so those should be with us in just a moment. And whilst everyone is busy clicking away on the poll, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over to a question or two, and then we can circle back to the poll. So there's been a question come in from Jonathan. He's gone with the human element of AI. He would like to know what human supervision and monitoring is suggested or built into your functionality.
Oh, thanks, Jonathan. That's a really good question. I think the first thing is that in terms of safety, security, supervision, safeguarding, all of those important elements, we've put really strict parameters around the kind of conversations that the AI can actually have. So the first thing is those parameters. And the second thing is that it is if you like, in the sense of being a proper coach, it is never going to give you advice. It's not mentorship. It's not your manager, if you like, in terms of giving them your, the benefits of their worldly experience. This is really just enabling that very reflective conversation. And those reflective thoughts, and really helping the individual articulate where they want to go to, how much commitment that they're actually going to give in terms of their skills development, and then enabling, pushing, motivating, cajoling, laughing, joking, and really pushing that individual towards that development on an ongoing basis. Now, in terms of the other elements of supervision, I don't think you can take the human out of this at all. So what we didn't want to do is have that individual's immediate line manager removed at all from this process, because we're thinking that this is actually going to enable quicker that coaching culture, because alerts are sent to the manager if the sentiment analysis within the how the individual is using the platform or what they're saying is a cause for a drop in say, for example, confidence or any of the other parameters that we've talked about. The manager can actually be sent those alerts. If they're not in the platform, they can find out, especially if they've been doing so well in terms of the journey. So all of that real-time information is actually available to the manager, and if you want, at different permission levels throughout the organization as well. I'm hoping that answers the question there.
It does, and it also has given us enough time as well
Happy
to get
take
the answers
another.
in from the poll. Oh, we've got questions lining up. Do not worry. So the poll has come in. 5% said yes, they are ready right now. They're good to go. 43% said I'd like to give it a go. So we've got 43% kind of almost there. 29% said they need more help with the business case, which is fantastic, because part of today's session is realizing, what you need help with. So that is absolutely brilliant. 14% could do with more convincing, and 10% currently sitting as other. So if we go back to the questions, hopefully we will help that 14% that need convincing to move over up the polls. So polls people, you can continue clicking. We've had a question come in from Alison. Can I confirm, is platform engagement able to be reported upon through an LXP or Power BI? So, of course, they want to check for their data, their reporting, their analysis. How can they actually then report on the data that the platform's developing?
Yeah, so you can see that information in the platform in real time, but it can also be exported, obviously not by everyone, just the people with the right permissions, to your choice of data dashboard or however you want to then see that data. So absolutely. And hi, Alison, nice to see you again.
Yeah, and we love an integrated platform, don't we? So that does all make our lives so much easier. We've had a question come in from Teresa. Is there any research that shows where AI coaching is effective and where it isn't? And there's multiple parts to this question. Where should the human be in the loop? And does the AI coach know when referrals to another source of support is appropriate? So you might be able to take one of each at a time, and I can always repeat them because I know that was a bumper question from Teresa.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, Molly, come in whenever you want, but is there any research that shows where AI coaching is effective? Well, I think the Nikita Blanche study that we talked about is peer-reviewed research. So you can look at that on Research Gateway. It's had a lot of, because it's peer-reviewed and it's been published, it's got a lot of really good controls around that. So you can certainly have a look at that. There's actually loads and loads of research on the powerful effects of AI coaching. I don't personally know of where coaching or coaching for performance is not recommended. The platform that we're talking about here has actually is actually built for those people with learning disabilities and learning difficulties. We've had great success with all of their learning disabilities. We've had users try it out extensively, and it's had very, very positive outcomes. We have, you know, the 80% net promoter scores. So I don't really know where it might be negative. I don't know if anyone else in the audience can help with that. It would be good to know that for sure. And then what was the third part of the part of the question, Hannah?
The next part was where should the human be in the loop? And when does the AI coach know when to refer to another source?
I think Noorie sort of alluded to that in response to Jonathan's question as well.
So I don't think the human should ever be taken.
Sorry, Noorie. I think we've got a little bit of a delay.
Go ahead, Molly.
But yeah, I think Noorie alluded to that in exactly what she said. That the human should never be out of the loop. It's important to have that touch point and that combination approach throughout an entire journey, because an individual can make as much progress as they want to with the AI coach, and that's fantastic. But it's really important, as Noorie said, to bring that lived experience from your manager, from your coach into the conversation and use that to drive things forward as well. So the human should never be out of the loop. It's always got to be there. And then in terms of, does the AI coach know when referral to another source of support is appropriate? We have built the current prompts and the current platform to fit within certain parameters. So in terms of referring to another source of support, it really depends on how you craft the conversation and how the specific context behind what Ada is doing can be built. And that can be customized on a case-by-case basis. So we would create custom prompts to make sure that the AI stays within its parameters, and anywhere outside of those parameters, it doesn't move past. And that is where it signposts you towards another source of support, whether that's actually directing you back towards your line manager, or maybe an external resource or piece of learning or training, whatever that might be. But also even further than that, that's where we can build in those nudges and notifications to the manager to make them aware that either a learner might be struggling or looking for something else inside the platform that maybe the AI hasn't been built to deal with. So, for example, if somebody's struggling or losing confidence in a particular area or needs more support, that raises a little flag and says, manager, get in touch with this person, deliver that just-in-time support to them, so they're not floundering, so they don't lose focus or lose track, because maintaining that engagement and keeping them on their journey is absolutely critical in getting those results.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we've got time for one more question, and I have more than one question, so I've had the difficult job of trying to decide which question. But there has been a question come in from, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Kosua. The data suggests that people like the platform, which of course is fantastic. Does it show that Ada improves strategic business outcomes? For example, increasing efficiency, increasing revenue, minimizing risk. So they want to understand the outcomes of people being coached through AI and how that's actually then helping their business? Do you have that data yet?
So we don't have all of the data, but what we do know is that we've got data from other sources and other clients that suggests that when individuals actually get onto their LMS, 80% of them actually, a lot of people want, if you like, to learn, but they get onto their LMS and they can't basically choose what they want to do. And so 80% of them get on, but don't ever launch a course or open a resource or listen to a video or anything like that. So you're losing 80% of your learners. What our platform shows is the converse. We have seen people with, when we first did this project, we did it with a very, if you like, difficult target audience. This was people with low educational attainment who had not previously done well at school, had learning disabilities or learning difficulties, and had a mental block to learning, essentially. And what it actually showed are the statistics that Molly went through in terms of that increase in confidence. But we had people within a 6-month time frame from essentially doing low-level manual labor jobs, being certified project managers within 6 months, or the first stage of project management within 6 months. So if you kind of extrapolate in terms of business performance, individual performance is what drives business performance. But obviously we need the metrics within an organization to be able to measure that business performance. So you have to know what your business goals are. And so that third element, if you like, in terms of what is that data and what is the analysis actually showing you, has to be linked to those business goals in order to be able to get that business outcome. And that obviously is going to be different for every business. But, the ability, if you like, is there.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. We've got 3 minutes left, so I can squeeze in the world's quickest question. It does. Thank you. Jonathan has a follow-up question. He says, how do you cover how confidential the conversational data is between the coachee and the coach?
So the, if you like, the actual conversations are not revealed to anyone else apart from the individual user and Ada. The analysis of those conversations is what the manager can actually see and what the organization can actually see. So the confidentiality element is, if you like, between coach and coachee in the same way if it was a physical relationship.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you. That is absolutely brilliant. And hopefully everyone has found it very informative and seeing the inside world of AI coaching. Thank you very, very much for your time today, Molly and Noorie. It has been most insightful. And for those that are staying tuned in the next session, up next, we have Dr. Nigel Payne himself talking about using learning for organizational performance and transformation of it. So stay tuned for the next session coming up in just a few moments. Thank you, everyone.